Hello and welcome. Right, there we are. Another episode of The Card Show. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone is surviving this heat. If you're in the UK, we have heat, we have sun. If you're in Manchester like myself, it is something we don't get much of, maybe 2 weeks of the year. It has been crazy, absolute bedlam. 30 degrees. I can't say that we are used to that sort of heat in Manchester. And it happens to be when Oasis are at Heaton Park, Manchester is really, really, really on fire at the moment. So yeah, good to have some sun. That's all I'm gonna say. Good to have some sun. But let's get into this episode anyway. Enough rambling about the weather and the sun. What is this? The weather show? No, it's a card show. But I thought with the country heating up, since we go to Europe heating up, I don't actually know the weather around Europe. Talk about the card market heating up. Does it heat up the same? I don't know. But it was an interesting post on Market Movers Up Instagram. And it was cards versus stocks. And obviously, stocks have been traditionally seen as sort of the way to invest your sort of say leftover money, put some money from your wages into stocks to bring you sort of wealth eventually. It's a way of investing in a company that's doing well and you to get some sort of kickback from them doing well and essentially supporting them, I suppose. It was always seen as a way for the, I don't say lower class, but do you know what I mean? Like that next class of people to sort of get wealthy. It was always get involved in stocks, stocks. But we'll go through this quite quickly because there's only a few slides. But they did a 365 days, so one whole year, comparing some modern cards and some stock performances, which I think were at a similar price when they started to where they are now. But let's get into it. So they start off with Saquon Barkley, 2018 Optic Green Velocity PSA 10. As you can imagine, what a year he's had, right? So he's been from sort of trade area. I don't know if he's actually traded yet, possibly just traded. I can't remember. To Philly at this sort of time. His that Optic Green Velocity PSA 10 is up 322%. As you can imagine, it's going to be hard for a stock to be doing that in a year. But we have that up against Tesla. So I'm assuming Tesla was a sort of similar price per one share to that card at a time, which is up 15.52% over the same 365-day period. Then we have Max Fried 2018 Topps Chrome Sapphire PSA 10, up 336% in those 365 days, versus Apple stock, which is down 8.80% over the same year period. Jamae Gibbs 2023 Mosaic Stained Glass PSA 10 is up 25%, whereas Microsoft stock is up 7.6% over the 365 days. Next up is Freddie Freeman 2011 Topps PSA 10, up 63.3%, versus Disney stock, which is up 25.17%. And then last but not least, Caitlin Clark 2024 Select WNBA Premier Level Orange Prism 2125 PSA 10, up 45.6%, versus Meta stock, which is up 34.61% over the same year period. Now, this doesn't mean that investing in cards is the best solution to sort of getting wealth. It's not replacing the stock market. It's done very well. I think I'm pretty sure it's vintage that has outperformed vintage cards. It outperformed the market for like over a decade. But it's interesting with these being sort of more modern cards now. I think there's definitely more of a, I don't say impulse, but definitely more of that younger market, so young people are getting money that probably resonate more with buying cards and sort of invest in that way and having that sort of gamble going on, um, as opposed to getting involved in stocks. Um, I think it's more fun in sort of watching sports, seeing someone do well, the cars do well, selling, buying someone else you might think does well the next week or so on. Then sort of check, you have to sort of learn trades. There's a lot to learn of, when brands are going to release stuff and the hype and the spikes, as opposed to, especially someone like Tesla who has the Elon Musk factor, right? When stuff goes well for him, people seem to ramp behind him big time. When you don't, you see people like throwing rocks at random Teslas and paint and trading Teslas all of a sudden, which obviously damaged it. So there's, don't get me wrong, the same things happen to sports people, right? There's injuries and charges that may come across them. But again, you're watching a sports game and you have a physical card at the end of it. Whereas when you got this digital stock at the end of it and you're not really watching anything in the meantime, it's just kind of a wake up and see the news, right? Wake up in the morning, see the news if anything's happened. If not, okay, I'll check my stock. That's where it's at. Oh, I might keep it in, I might sell it. It's, it's what it is. But it's a very interesting take. I said vintage is what I've done well performance wise. It's just interesting how these with sort of modern cards. Is this a sort of a shift now, a paradigm shift in where the youth will go? Will they invest more of these physical sort of stocks essentially? You're buying. Let's face it, if you can buy a lot of them, Kate and Clark's, was it the Premier Level Orange Prism to 125? If you can hold a lot of them, all of a sudden you have a bigger margin, right? You have a bigger percentage. You can have 10% of those cards. If you have 12 of them, you can have 20% of those cards. You get 24 of them. And all of a sudden, you've got a bit of a market share. You can sort of dictate in a certain way because then you still need 120 collectors plus that want that card to make that value. But if it's a lower number card, it's 5 to 10, even to like a 25 maybe, you sort of say, then you have more of a dictation on that price for sure, especially if you can get more and more of them. If you can own 2 or 3 of the 5s, you're probably going to be able to sell them because the other 2 or 3 might be owned by collectors. I've seen it with some like random, 49, and you can see people trying to complete rainbow, and sometimes they'll get the 1 of 1, and they might get one of different 5s, and they'll never find like a random to 25 or a 49 or whatever, because just so happens that 49 people either one that can't have it, it's one they could sort of buy into a good price range for them maybe, and it's having that nice set, nice card. Sometimes it's a nice colorway as well. Gold sometimes at 50, that sort of stuff. It's it's very strange how that happens, right? Now you could maybe find a couple of to 5s in the market every now and then, quite a few to 10s maybe, and and a couple here there, 15 or a 20 or 25 maybe. Well, yeah, some random number will always never really pop up when you search. It's funny how that happens. Again, it's all depends. I think I've had it recently for a card. I've got them I've sort of listed for sale. Um, I will try and get rid of it towards the national and this football season. And it's a card that's in abundance. It's numbered, but a high number, but it just doesn't sell that much. It's one of those. It's a cheap buy-in. It's a RPA, and to get this quarterback's RPA at a good price, a couple $100, he's probably one of the best ones to get. So a lot of people get it because they collect that person, and not many come for sale. And I have one for sale, and people are always like, "Oh, well, it's not. It's not sold for 6 months now," and this, that, the other. The price then was then. I was like, yeah, exactly. No, there's none listed really. Sometimes you get the lower numbered listed, and it goes for less than what the last my high number did. Just because it might come on your market more. So yeah, it's crazy how that sometimes happens. But it'll be interesting to see if that is a route that the younger generation go down now. We know obviously we can see how fanatics are pushing breaking. There's going to be a lot of cards going to people that not always cards that people want as well, because they're involved in breaks more. They're sort of like the pushing it, breaks. The contract was, you can be a top thing if you had a brick and mortar space. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how much that's changed in the UK with, if you don't have brick and mortar, you have to come down to our facilities and do it. You have to do it fanatics. We have to then have the content sort of thing, because we're seeing a lot of people seem to be breaking their, they seem to be pulling nice cards. They seem to be part of the program, part of the, whether it do good to be good, whatever it's called, the get along gang, um, that seem to be the same sort of people who go into these places that don't have a shop, brick and mortar place. But they're really pushing the sort of the break aspects, and the younger generation, they get into breaks, or even the generation now, they get into breaks. They have a lot of cards because they're getting teams, and all of a sudden you have so many cards. It's like, oh well, what do with the cards? Okay, I'm gonna try and sell them. So all of a sudden you become a seller, maybe at shows, or big on eBay selling, and you just sort of get, I want to say, sucked into a cycle, and all of a sudden you realise that, hey, I've alleviated, someone wanted a bit of a collection, someone wanted to, to finish sets up, and I've bought some cash. Maybe I can buy a card I actually want, or buy a card that I might think might do well. So they get into that side of it, and they start going through details and analytics and start seeing sort of things. Whether they're looking at market movers. Hey, we've got a code for that. Mahomes, MAHOMES, gets you 20% off, 14-day free trial. You can go through data. You can see when a good time to sell, when not so much. You can see the current trends. You can see when the card is had spikes, when it's not had spikes, all that sort of stuff. There's other tools out there. 130 points really good. Card ladder, some people like. Card hedger. Top of my head, even just go on eBay, sold and completed. And if you get drawn into it that way, and you really start looking into this sort of stuff, is that where you start plugging your money instead of said, oh, do you know what? I'll put into some Apple stocks. I'll put into some Tesla stocks, Meta stocks, Disney. Sort of like the big things that everyone uses, everyone sees every day, right? Meta is everywhere. Disney, was it Microsoft, Apple, Tesla? I'm sure there's many more British Airways sort of stuff, American Airways, if that's where you're from. That's all nonsense. Just because you don't resonate with it, it doesn't sort of, I don't want to say scratch an itch, but doesn't sort of interest him as much, as opposed to, a Cristiano Ronaldo card, a Lionel Messi card, a Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. The sort of grandeur, these elite athletes that you get to watch, admire. They're sort of invested anyway, amount of jerseys, caps, hats, socks, trainers, God knows what of these people already, So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think, we're seeing what fanatics are doing and the way they're pushing the hobby. I do think we're unfortunately sort of a year or two. We have been in it for a year as well, for a bit, with the unlicensing. It does make me worry a little bit. I'll touch that in a minute, actually. That's going to sound right now. What worries me is that the Midnight and all these other sets that we're releasing, with them being unlicensed, what do they mean in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years time? We know what prison means, right? We know buying licensed prison cards, what they mean today, what they mean in 5 years, what they mean in 10 years for rookies. It's like we've got data for that tells us. We look at another Panini releasing Optic. It's been licensed so long. We know when it comes to tops and these new sets releasing, we don't know what these cards are going to mean in a year, 2 years, because obviously the license changes. So, and also next year when you have all these license cards, what happens to these unlicensed? Do we then go, well, they've got licensed now, so they look a lot better. They're licensed. They'll have more. Hopefully, have more autos from a wider range of players. That's the whole point in this whole Fanatics deal, right? To give the collectors what they want, to grow the hobby 10x, to do all this other. So then, do we look at these cards that released? I can't think of the top of my head. I had them all before, isn't it? It's Midnight. I always want to keep saying it, but like I hate Midnight. I don't hate Midnight. I don't like any of these releases too much. But all these releases that they pumped out unlicensed. I mean, the basketball ones looked horrendous. The jersey scenario was just so bad. And obviously, you get the influencers, quote unquote. That's a nonsense. The get on gangs. They've been told by tops to push it all out and say how great these new products are and this, that, the other. Like, what are they going to say in a year's time, 2 years' time when the licenses changes? Do we then go, well, it's still a rookie card with an auto? You know, it's like the Divid 24 hour stuff, or do we go, well, now it's licensed, now they're bringing out the Bowmans, the Bowman Chromes and the Sapphires and the nice cards, and we're not getting flooded with these dodgy random inserts and that we don't know anything about. At least with Bowman and Chrome and Finest, that stuff, we can sort of go back to the very early 2000s, I suppose. And, I'm a big fan of those cards. It's something I'm sort of collecting a little bit more now. I've started to buy more of the early 2000s tops Chrome and Sapphire, and that's what's Finest sort of stuff. I think they're very beautiful cards. Getting more into the history of the Chiefs, picking up some of those cards. So, we sort of can see how they perform and how they've been doing because there's data for that sort of stuff. With these brand new sets that are set on license, we do not know. And I think there's a lot of people could get left holding back, could get hurt. And because they're pushing it to all these new people, they don't see it that way because they're new to the hobby. They just see, oh, this is their new product. This is what they tell me to buy. This is what all these people tell me to buy. It's what they're pushing. It's a dangerous game. We just got to hope that, there's channels out there they can get educated from, people out there can help them, because it definitely could help grow this hobby to be a place where instead of a lot more people do put money in on the prospect game over a stock. I definitely think it does. Look at the percentage rise. I mean, that's Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's not even numbered. That's another thing to think about. Like Saquon Barkley, the green velocity, the Max Fried, top Chrome Sapphire. Jamaica Misting glasses and I think it's an SP. It obviously an SSP. But if I'm wrong on their quote, definitely tell me. The Max Freeman Trait 11 tops, just a base card, right? Up 63%. King Clark, at least that's what number 225. And I get it, it's not like you buy a Tesla stock and it's like one of 110, the sort of thing. So good. But if you can have, if you'd had Saquon cards, one of his higher ones that you've put money in, wonder what that's rose to. The Max Friday, I wonder what his more limited cards rose to. I wonder what Jameer Gibbs limited cards. Actually, do you know what else happened? I panicked so much. I don't know if you heard that. The music came out, I pressed a button. I thought it was on here. I thought it was background music for this, for the stream. It wasn't. I pressed it on the phone and it played music off there. I couldn't for the life of me figure out where it came from. So yeah, sorry about that if I heard anything. But yeah, it's very interesting to look into. I'm sure there's stocks out there that performed better than some cards, and I'm sure this is very well cherry picked. So we say that these 5 cards he picked have done extremely well. It's 63% up, and 336% and 222% the first 2 lead with, right? I'm sure there's a dozen more, 100 dozen more cards that have done so bad compared to stocks. They're down 150%, 200%. I think that's the problem in it, like this gambling state sort of thing. Yes, it's kind of unfortunate that's the sort of world we're in. That's the sort of everything that's they're pushing with this stuff. But it is, I suppose, with in a certain aspect, I sort of perpetuate that as well, being someone that sells cards to people that mainly prospects. I think I do try and find collectors, but because it's on eBay, I don't fully know all the time if they're collectors or not. If I'm set up at a show, more often than not, it's collectors. I'm very rare that I get people who are looking to flip immediately, like immediate flippers. The people just looking to flip short term sort of thing. It's more people that are collecting people that come over, get the cards. Whereas on eBay, because obviously, they might be meat on the bone that'll leave. They might be just down me to sell at the wrong time, etc. That sometimes it could go to someone who wants to think, well, this is good value at the moment. You could do well and have a run towards the championship. Maybe I'll buy this now and go up more. It is, yeah. So I do sort of, in that aspect, I suppose I do sort of perpetuate the gambling thing, but I think I don't say that's okay in a hobby, but that's more of a, I'm not telling them. Like if I was to put on the, I see it sometimes on eBay, invest and this, that, the other. I don't kind of agree with that. It makes me laugh. Obviously, I don't really believe that sort of stuff, but when someone says on an eBay thing, it's was it eBay 101, invest? I take that open to sort of laugh, but maybe some people do get stuck in, right? Some people see it and go, well, it's a Ronaldo card, and you guys, invest. It's an eBay 101. It's limited. I get it. And for all you know, it's a typically just a base insert, a base insert from some random thing, from years ago. It's a typically, it's a sticky area, let's say. But I try to steer people in a way of gambling, but sort of mitigating a lot of risk, I suppose. I always talk about the data aspect, right? Market movers is one I use. It's what, the reason I sort of affiliated with them is because I found the data easiest to extract. I found the app very easy to use, the website to use. I found the data helpful. Was the other part, right? Now I did try Card Hedge. I did try Card Ladder. I still use 130 point. I still use Alt. Alt and 130 point are sort of free. 130 point does have an app now. At the time, it didn't. Card Ladder, I just didn't find it as easy to navigate around and get the stuff I wanted. Market moves app I found very easy. Then that was why I partnered with them. I thought if I can give people a discount as well, great, right? 20% discount on a product is quality, especially if something that's in the cheapest package is like $9 a month, right? So there we go. And everyone that has signed up to that, appreciate it. That's helped this channel so much, and everyone that likes, subscribes, comments, not only on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the channels, it really helps. So I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it as always. A little sidebar there, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting time in the hobby. I hope you guys, well, I know you guys, everyone that listens to this is a very, very smart person, let's be honest, because you understand how the game is and you're here learning, right? You're here to go, okay, at least he waffles nonsense sometimes, but he does kind of have a lot of valid points. And that's all I want. That's all I want. This hobby's given me a lot, whether it's the social aspect or financial aspect. It's given me a lot. I think I was lucky with just the card shows, right? And being one of the first sort of vlog the card shows and go around up and down the country for a year and just, and I think it helped. But I think it helped spread a lot of, around the hobby. People from maybe on the outside, a bit like myself, who didn't really know what was going on in the UK. And I managed to meet a lot of the great people. Some of them I still talk to daily, or weekly sort of thing. And it's things saying, right, that I give back in that way, right? I don't want to be out here telling you to just give blood my breaks and please, that way providing sort of a living for myself. Maybe we'll start something kind of like that soon, but not like a membership sort of thing where we can have more intimate, private sort of things. We can go through strategies and data points and look at stuff and win together, lose together, sort of thing. And if someone talks about, would you ever join up with a couple of people and combine to buy big cards and move them on profits? Like you Jordan 86 flares and that sort of stuff. And I like that sort of idea, but it could get messy if because I think the more people involved, the more chances are that something happens, right? So let's say if we all buy this card, now we've got a lot easier because we say, right, put it in the PSA vault and we list it for this price, sort of thing. We're going to lose a percentage is number one, which, it happens. Number two, what if it's a card? We obviously do it smartly, so it's transactional. But what if we do get a very nice Jordan Flurry 6, it's a PSA 8, 9, and it's a few people are in $4 or $5 grand a piece, right? What if then someone's like, hey, I could do with getting that money out now? Ideally, in ideal world, everyone would have an extra grand or two as well. So say, okay, we'll buy you out. The other problem to that is we buy them out for what price? The price we want the card to sell for? Or are we going to then predict what it could sell for minus fees? Do you know what I mean? Or is that person just happy to get the cash that they paid for out? It's yeah, it gets a bit tricky. But again, another day for another part, another thing. But yes, to summarize this one, very interesting look at cards. Again, it's market movers going to push their agenda, right? Cards doing so well, you know. We all know who's behind market movers. Jeff Wilson, very hobby positive, very because it go along, get along gang, you know, get along, go along gang, whatever. I don't know what that saying is. I shouldn't say it so much to really. Yeah, he has a store. He has connections with those companies. They're gonna push a great narrative. So be careful. I said there'll be hundreds of thousands of cards over that year period that did a lot worse than 100,000 of stocks. Vice versa. That's a very good sign. Just if you said if you were smart enough to pick up the Saquon and sell at the height, massive congrats there. You've done very well. But let's face it, if you also bought into Tesla shares, you would definitely take 15.52% profit. How nice is that for you? What was the other? Was it Disney? 25.17%. I've done it again. 25.17%. Still a great profit. Yes, it's not as good as the Freddie Freeman it's up against 63.3%, but still 25.17%. It's still a nice profit on the year. Meta again up 34.61%. So I think one of the pluses and one thing that can sort of get missed is you never go broke taking a profit, right? Yes, some of these selected cards did do well, but some of the stocks did very well too. So that is where we'll leave this podcast. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I would appreciate you guys. If you haven't listened this far, by the way, you are the real MVPs. Maybe we should do I'm going to start doing like random keyword in videos. So if you listen this far, you've got like a bit of a head start before I announce everyone. But I'm going to do a little keyword, and then whoever comments, maybe do the first person. That's a bit harsh. No, I might do it blind. So people who DM me the keyword would get a little gift. Yeah, I'll do something like that. Like people DM me the keyword, I'll wrap it up before the next one's come out. I'll then do like the video, like a wheel, and then the winner will get some money, 50 quid. I don't know. Does you reckon that sound good? Let me know. If that sounds good, let me know. Comment just saying great idea. Oh, in fact, comment saying great idea 101. Because then people are like, what? Let's not give it away. So great idea 101. DM me on the sly. Yeah, comment. And also make sure you're on Instagram, follow, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, get your notification bell going. TikTok if you have that, get on there. I don't know much on there lately. That's because I'm slacking. But yes. Also a special shout out to Manchester CardCon. They went on in this crazy heat in Manchester. 30 degrees. I heard the AC was pumping. So I probably should have gone there as I was absolutely sweating my back out. I actually got offered a ticket to Oasis. Last minute, 190 quid for maybe. A friend of a friend, and I didn't take it. I was done. I was toasted, heat stroked and all them. I was done. I was like, yeah, I'd love to, but long day. And it's kind of late in the day. It was like 4, half 4-ish, whatever. And I was just like, oh, kind of bothered with all the answers now. Yeah, I didn't even try to get Oasis tickets, but when he came around, I got my iconic trading card one instead. That's just how I roll. But yes, appreciate you as always. Another pod gone, another week done. I will see you on Friday on a lookout. Take care. Peace.